is qualified by the fact that these change at this point every 2 months. So this answer may be out of date in 2 months. But basically, for the performing arts, Instagram is the most important because it is the largest and most engaged platform. And it is the one that is, I think, our art form is best represented on the whole. That is the one you absolutely should be on. TikTok is still the most ascendant platform. Will that be the case in 90 days when the ban is, potentially lifted, reinstated, or whatever? Who knows? Obviously, there are politics at play here, and this platform could wholesale disappear or change, dramatically from the inside out, the algorithm. There is the reality that what performs well on TikTok is not necessarily what is the best representation of a nuanced and complex performing artist. And that's true of social media, period. If you have a cute cat or you're ripped and you want to sing, to be the shirtless violinist, then you'll perform well on any platform. But if you want to create serious, complex, shaded art, most of these platforms are not going to, that's not what's going to juke the algorithm, so to speak. But TikTok is especially guilty of that because it is the first 2 to 3 seconds. If you're not grabbed, the algorithm says, okay, cool, toss it. If you're the type of person who feel energized and comfortable being hey guys, here's me doing this, boom, boom, boom. And then you go and, play accordion or, rip an extended vocal technique. Cool. Then try it, certainly. And you probably will do well on TikTok. But I mean, a series of epic pop covers on accordion would do well on TikTok, no question. But again, does that fuel your soul or drain your soul? That's a question. Anyway, but TikTok is ascendant. And this is, I always consider when I'm thinking about for our clients, is it a growth platform? Is it plateaued? Is it sunsetting? Facebook is a sunset platform that is diminishing. X, I mean, unless you are a far right-wing conservative agitator, then for all but them, TikTok or X is very, very sunsetting. It's very, very dropping off. So those are two that if you're on, great, just stay there unless you want to leave X for protest reasons, more because it's a cesspool of humanity these days. But otherwise, just stay there. But I would not actively pursue growing a platform on either of those channels because they are not growing. And the best time to get into a social media platform is when people are joining it en masse, because that is when people first join, that is when they spend the most time looking who to follow. And they will try to go find their friends or people they're fans of on other platforms. And if you're on there, you capture that person. If you're not, the chances of them 2 months later being I'm going to spend another hour searching for people, unless they are prompted to search for you, they will not likely. And so that is why that is a golden opportunity. And that's why I say, as soon as you hear about a new platform, just sign up for it because you might well gain, a bunch of followers and then have a powerful community there. But that is the absolute best time to be on these platforms. But there's also the question of how impactful will these platforms be, again, for in the world and for our art form specifically. And so Blue Sky, Thread, Mastodon, all of these sort of Twitter killers, unless you really love and get Twitter and engage well with that type of discourse, which is specifically conversation-based, short form, pithy, or idea-focused or discussion-focused, then none of those platforms are really going to matter. And also, I don't know that any of them are going to really achieve dominance. Blue Sky is the biggest at this point. Threads had a huge burst because it came out of Instagram. Have any of you been on Threads recently, though? No. That one is one that I personally don't see a ton of sticky engagement on. It was a marketing exercise from Instagram, which has kind of plateaued rapidly. And so again, Blue Sky is the leader of the Twitter killer. So it's good to be on there, but I would not feel a need to post constantly there unless, again, you love the community that's on there. And again, social media platforms die. Friendster, MySpace, but also over the pandemic, Clubhouse was the preeminent example of a platform that emerged, was beautifully publicized. The PR agency that did that campaign nailed it, and that they got a ton of press. The platform itself had celebrities talking about crypto and stuff, but it was basically live podcasts for the people who weren't on it. But that's that. I mean, there were people in our classical music world who spent hours, 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 hours building a community on this platform during the early days of the pandemic. And now it doesn't even exist anymore. It exists, I think, as a audio messaging app or something like that. It's completely pivoted. So like that, and that is the most frustrating thing, is building a community on a platform and then having it go under or change dramatically and hurt your ability to reach that community. So that's why more generally, I say that your email list is by far the most powerful tool that you can capture. That is the most powerful community you can build. And you have to treat it with absolute love, like you treat a baby puppy, like the youngest puppy you've ever been around. Like delicacy, and always what love can you give and show to it, never what can you ask from it or get from it other than affection and cuddles. In 10 years, we may be having a different conversation about email. I see email hitting a tipping point as well, because we are all so inundated by it. And so that nature of that communication channel seems to be reaching a saturation point, but it is still by far the most powerful mode of marketing that you have. And the one that no like billionaire sociopath owned tech platform can take away from you immediately. There's no others that I think are vital at this point. LinkedIn, if you have an industry focus, LinkedIn, it's like one of the great resurrections. It was like Zoom, like incredible. And because it was a joke, but it is one of the most highly engaged platforms of social media now by far, in terms of the percentage of, if you post something, the size of your community, the percentage that both see that post and engage with it is massive compared to all other platforms in my experience. However, it is only valuable if you have a presence on the industry side of our industry, on the like administrative side of our industry. If you are like sort of a purely an artist in your public brand, then it can be detrimental, because hopefully this will change as well in the coming decades. But our industry still has this perception that if you do anything other than your art to make money, then you're not a real artist. And that is obviously bullshit, as we all know. But that is a perception that is important to sort of maintain for the older guard of our industry, for whom that is still part of their worldview. And so like, if that is what your brand is, then LinkedIn is not a place for you to be, because that will ultimately damage your perception to the decision makers, who are mostly older and still inured in that worldview. However, if you have sort of successfully navigated where you have an administrative position as well as an artistic position, like established artistic career, that can be an incredibly powerful way to share your artistic successes to the industry community. Because all the people who are on there who matter are the heads of institutions or the high-level administrators of institutions. And if you build that community and then say, I just triumphed with this amazing new project and had this incredible review, and you post it to LinkedIn, then all those administrators would be like, oh, that person's doing amazing things. That's cool. But I also love, working with them on the administrative side. So that is one that I would throw out there with a heavy caveat.